What's going on, guys? Arzine Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Red Friday live chat. It is week 3. It's been a very busy week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Nonetheless, we talked about it really all week on the podcast. I mean, we did 4 straight episodes, 4 straight days of episodes of the Chiefs Zone podcast. That's how crazy of a week it has been. So we're here now, doing the Red Friday live chat. It's kind of nice to do a little bit more of a laid back live stream. No podcast, none of that stuff. But still, we're having fun with it. Yeah, it's been a very interesting week for the Chiefs for sure. With all the Kareem Hunt news, all of that stuff going on. And we can dive more into that this week. The word did come out today that Kareem Hunt will not play on Sunday night. That was kind of expected. Some of you guys were asking me if I thought he had a chance to play, and I kind of dismissed that. Then I kind of looked at the roster, and I thought maybe there's a possibility he actually does play, kind of 50-50 on that. So I went from shutting that idea out completely to kind of going 50-50, and it turned out that the Chiefs are gonna give it at least 1 week. So we'll see what happens there. We can kind of dive into that this week, as Samaje Perine and Keontae Ingram are going to be your running backs, with Carson Steele being your fullback. So that's how that's going to look going into week 3. Also, the left tackle news that came out today with Kingsley Suamataia and Wanye Morris. Andy Reid did not give a definitive answer as to who's going to start. Made it sound like rotation is a strong possibility. That made it seem like they're both going to play in this game. Not really a fan of that answer there. Look, you want to have a definitive left tackle. And I understand that it was just one spot. There's a reason you traded up to get Kingsley Suamataia. And I think you want to make sure that this is going to be the guy who's going to be around for a long time here. This is your second round pick. Again, late second rounder, but still someone that you felt the need to trade up again, despite being just one spot, still felt the need to trade up to get him. And listen, third round picks are not bums either. And no disrespect to day 4 draft picks, but third round picks, you can get quality starters in the third round too. And Wanye Morris is a third rounder from the 2023 draft class. And, we've yet to really see why he was brought into Kansas City. He had some flashes last year filling in for Donovan Smith, but still kind of waiting on his opportunity for him to really showcase his skills. And he may get a chance this week. So we'll get into that. Let's start with Kareem Hunt. Let's go there, because I think that's the one that a lot of people are still kind of surprised by. I still am. But, you really don't, if you're the Chiefs, if you're the coaching staff, the organization, players, whoever, you really don't have time to kind of sit in that honeymoon phase anymore. I'm sure that will be brought back. The discussion will be brought back up once Kareem Hunt gets elevated to the 53-man roster, the main roster. Right now, he's still a member of the practice squad, so he's not on the team yet. But I think when you look at Kareem Hunt and what he brings to the table, obviously the familiarity, and I think, just some help at the running back position. Is he going to be the same guy he was in 2018, his last year with the Chiefs? No, I just don't see that being the case. I hope I'm wrong, but I think he can do enough to help you get through. I think if you have it be running back by committee, that'll work. Is Isaiah Pacheco, whenever he comes back, assuming he comes back, and I think he will, whenever he comes back, is he going to be able to have the same workload he had before his injury? Probably not. And I think that's where Kareem Hunt can definitely add some value there, splitting time with Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. And I think you're really going to have that running back by committee because I've always said this. There are guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, for example. This is not a guy that is considered to be a main part of your receiving core. He is a part of it, but not a main part of it. And if he's a depth guy, okay, well, that reduces his chances of getting hurt if he's not playing as many snaps. But that's not really the ideal situation here because, unfortunately, Hollywood Brown might not play this year. So he might end up getting involved a little more than expected, but still maybe not as much of the workload would go towards him, because for right now you still have a good set of wide receivers with Rashee Rice and with Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce, you're kind of still waiting on him. And I think it's worth getting into Travis Kelce a little bit here on this podcast. By the way, for those of you who are here on the live stream, please ask a question, comment, whatever thoughts you have. It doesn't have to be what I'm talking about. It can be anything here. Weigh in with your thoughts and questions on this episode of the Red Friday live chat, and I'll get to those later on here. So if you have any questions, please don't be shy, comment below, and we'll talk about it here, as it has been a very busy week for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think in general, this is a team that has to kind of find their focus. The offense has found ways to score in this game, and yeah, there was a little bit of help with the scoop six from Shamari Connor. But I think the offense has gotten off to a better start this year compared to last year. Last year, I mean, the offensive woes were just kind of out there right away. This year, in terms of total yards per game, a little bit of a setback the first two games compared to last year, the first two games, but the scoring is certainly higher than it was last year in the first 2 weeks. Again, it's just the first 2 weeks, but here's what I say about football. When people say, oh, it's one game, it's 2 games. Well, you only have 17 games. We used to have 16 games. I mean, that wasn't too long ago. Now you have 17, but it's still not a lot. You're kind of at this point now where you're an eighth into the season. And again, that's not a lot, but football season goes by pretty quickly. You play one game, okay, 2 games, 3 games. Well, now you're close to finishing the first quarter of the season. It goes by pretty quickly. Faster than any other sport, it feels like. And baseball feels like it goes on forever because of the amount of games there are. Hockey and basketball, not as much, but it's still those seasons are definitely very, very long, longer than all of the other sports, especially when you consider the postseason. If you reach it all the way to the finals, whether the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA Finals, you do not have a very long offseason. But I don't think those players are complaining if they're world champs. But as far as the whole situation with the offense, I do think they've got to show more improvement. Patrick Mahomes, these first 2 games, and I know Patrick Mahomes, his stat line in the month of September is really, really good. These 2 weeks have not been his best. Certainly, he's looked better in the first 2 weeks in years past. I feel like his decision making these 2 games have been really bad. And here's what happens, because not once, but twice already this year, one in each game, you've had a situation where the Chiefs have turned the ball over on the first play of a drive. That is never going to help a defense. I mean, unless the Chiefs defense has not been at its best this year. They've allowed a lot of yards. I think they're in the bottom 5 in total yards allowed, which certainly some people did not expect. But the Chiefs defense has found a way to really pull through. And I think that needs to be noted here. Yes, I think the defense needs to improve, and we got to get into the linebackers, because they have been getting their asses kicked by tight ends this year. And I have that number, and I'll get to it again if you didn't hear it on the podcast. But when you look at the way the Chiefs have played before halftime in the Ravens game, Leo Chenal, huge pass deflection there, not allowing Lamar Jackson's pass to get to whoever that tight end was, Likely or Andrews, whichever one it was, or maybe it was somebody else, Zay Flowers. And then before the end of the game, just finding a way to not let the Ravens get a touchdown there. Yeah, Zay Flowers was open, should have connected there, but he didn't. And I think that part of that is having to deal with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, Chenal, and Turk Wharton. And that kind of flustered Lamar at times. And maybe that's why he overthrew Zay Flowers in the end zone. So I still think, you deserve to take a little bit of credit for that. And then Nick Bolton, who had struggled all game long, did enough to make sure Isaiah Likely did not stay inbounds in that final play right there. So you have those moments right there. And I think, and by the way, what was the last play Joe Burrow had against the Chiefs? Getting sacked by Shamari Connor. That was the final offensive play of the game for the Bengals, was the Shamari Connor sack. So, and Connor, of course, had a really big game there, getting the scoop 6 and the sack, the final snap of the game for the Chiefs defense. So the Chiefs defense, even though they have not been very good this year, they've really come through in the fourth quarter in some games this year. Do I think it needs to be better still? Yes. But Spags is such an interesting defensive coordinator because last year was an amazing season for the Chiefs defense. But all the other years, statistically speaking, not necessarily the most eye-glowing stats, but it's always a defense that will find a way to pull through in the end. There's this weird bend, don't break element with this defense. And you didn't see much of it last year. I think the defense was strong and stout more times than not, a lot more times than not. Whereas this year, you're seeing a lot of bend, don't break. And that's not necessarily a very ideal way. Sure, you can find ways to, keep offenses out of the end zone. The Chiefs do a really good job of that so far in these two games. But when you have Mahomes committing a turnover on the first play of a drive, well, the defense that just gave up only 3 points on a very long drive, they have to come back out and they're gassed at that point. And that is how you beat up teams. Look at last night's game between the Jets and the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots didn't even show up in that game. But did you guys see the time of possession in that game? It was not even close. The Jets dominated. They had the ball for 40 minutes and 4 seconds. The Patriots had it for 19 minutes and 15. So essentially, it was 40 minutes versus 20 minutes. That is never going to help your football team. The only reason why it would be good to have it 20 minutes less than your opponents is if you're scoring really quickly on your drives. You have multiple one-play drives or two-play drives that score in touchdowns. That's the only way that stat can maybe be a little misleading. But, man, you're seeing teams do that because when you can keep an elite quarterback on the sidelines for a long time, that's a good recipe to win. You saw a couple of teams do that last year. You've seen a lot of teams try that against the Chiefs. Has not worked often, but some teams have come close to it. Yeah, and I see a couple of people in the chat talking about, games being close. Look, you're going to get every team's best shot. You really are. Is that an excuse for how the Chiefs have looked in these two games, more so in the fourth quarter of that Ravens game and then, throughout the game against the Bengals? No, not at all. But you've got, at the end of the day, if you find a way to win football games, that's all Andy Reid cares about. And don't get me wrong, they're definitely looking to find ways to improve. And it certainly makes it easier to improve. But I definitely think the offense, Patrick Mahomes' decision-making, number one, has to be much better. I think he had an opportunity to get the ball to Travis Kelce in the end zone, but the ball just kind of slipped out of his hand weird. And that we've seen that a couple of times. I think that happened once in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals, the second time they met in the AFC Championship game. And fortunately, that didn't cost the Chiefs much in that game. But it's like, why do those things keep happening? That doesn't happen often. I should maybe clarify on that, but you've got to be better about that kind of thing. And his decision making. This might be the worst start Patrick Mahomes has had. Unfortunately, it hasn't cost the Chiefs much. They're 2-0 at the end of the day, which is the good news. But the decision making has to be better. Especially, you don't have Hollywood Brown, you don't have Isaiah Pacheco. You're going to be playing with some guys that maybe were not expected to be installed in these certain roles that they have. Samaje Perine, this guy was not on your team 4 weeks ago. He's now somebody that's going to get a lot of action for you. So you're in these weird situations that you weren't expecting, but unfortunately, that's football. Injuries happen, and you have to find ways to adapt to it. If you guys haven't done so already, please ask a question. I'll get to your guys' question. I see a lot of you guys that have comments lined up, and I'll get to those shortly. As far as Kareem Hunt goes, am I surprised he's not playing this week? Not really. Early on in the week, I kind of dismissed that and said, no, not a chance. But then looked at the roster, had some open holes on the main roster, some availability, and thought there was a chance Kareem Hunt could get elevated by the end of the week, but not the case. So he's going to sit out for this game. And I can understand that because the Chiefs don't like to put players in there when they haven't had a lot of familiarity with the scheme. Yes, Kareem Hunt he's been on this team before with Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, and Patrick Mahomes, but things do change over time as well. And I think with his play declining, especially with the running back position, how much that changes over the years, he probably needs to adjust a little bit as well. So hopefully it's just one game. I think you can get by. I heard Adam Teicher say this earlier this week that the Chiefs could probably get by with him not playing this week. But man, you got to have him next week. The Chargers are looking better than I think a lot of people anticipated. The Saints are a lot better than people anticipated. Way better than what anyone expected from them. But I think in general, hopefully he gets that familiarity, because I think you're going to need him the next 2 games before your bye week. By the way, I know a lot of people hated to see the bye week early. I'll say this right now, with the injuries you have, not that I think Isaiah Pacheco and Hollywood Brown are going to come back anytime soon because of the early bye, but I think just with the way things are kind of starting out, especially on offense, I think it's kind of a good thing that the bye week is early. Maybe a lot of people did not think that before the season. I think right now that might be the mindset out there with some fans. Certainly is for me. And again, I know Patrick Mahomes made a big deal about this. Everyone else kind of talked about this, but I think now the way things are looking, it might be a good thing to have your bye in week 6. I don't think it would hurt too much at the end of the day. Left tackle, let's talk about that, and then I'll get to your guys' questions and whatever else comes up here. Kingsley Suamataia, he has obviously gotten off to a bit of a slow start here. I didn't think he was terrible in that Ravens game, all things considered. He's a rookie, but against Trey Hendrickson, not looking good. Did he get away with some holds? Yeah. Well, guess what? So did the Bengals. They held Chris Jones a couple of plays. Trent McDuffie was yanked down and called for DPI. So cry me a river. But he's got to be better about that. He was just constantly getting beat by Trey Hendrickson. And I think when you look at the way the Chiefs operate or have operated these past couple of years, their offensive tackle play has been dog shit. Can we just be honest? It's been bad. Both Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley, they led the NFL in quarterback pressures numbers 1 and 2 in 2022. And then last year, you had Donovan Smith and you had Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor had some good moments. Donovan Smith was just getting beat a lot. Then you had Wanye Morris. He had some good moments, but then he got introduced to a couple of elite pass rushers like Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, and he struggled in those games as well. Donovan Smith, I thought, was a little better in the playoffs. I definitely thought that. Here's my biggest frustration with the Chiefs. They're not using a tight end or a fullback like Carson Steele to help Patrick Mahomes and help the left tackles more to pass protect. They did it with Jerick McKinnon for Orlando Brown. Why are they not doing it now with they didn't even do it last year with Donovan Smith and Wanye Morris, and they're not doing it this year with Kingsley. I mean, what is the point? Are you just saying, oh, okay, yeah, go figure it out, you'll figure it out eventually? No, you've got to protect your franchise quarterback. I mean, you don't want him to get hurt. Nobody wants that, obviously. But you got to give Patrick Mahomes an opportunity. I mean, listen, even the Bengals, not that I necessarily agree with what they did, but against the Chiefs, they had a running back and a tight end lined up in shotgun next to Joe Burrow in shotgun, pass protecting. And so, the reason I disagree with that is because they only had 3 receivers down the field, and pretty much all of them were double teamed. If you're not going to utilize all 5 players, you allow an opportunity for the defense to double team everyone. That's exactly what they did. You can prevent maybe multiple double teams if you have at least 4 guys, but come on, like, you gotta give the left tackle some help here, whether it's Kingsley or it's Wanye Morris. But come on, man, like, give him a little bit of help, just a little bit. That was kind of frustrating to watch in that Bengals game. It's like, okay, at some point you gotta use your brain, and again, Andy Reid knows football way better than I do, but how do you not go out there and put a tight end? I mean, I know Hendershot's on the practice squad now, but what was the point of him being active for the game? What's the point of Jared Wiley, who's really tall and can go out there and throw some blocks? Where was any of that? William says, I thought Kareem Hunt would play. Yeah, a lot of people kind of thought that, given how thin the roster is at the running back position. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is the Chiefs don't want to throw anyone out there when they haven't been able to practice a lot. And I'm just trying to not to compare a running back to a cornerback, but even Darrelle Revis. Remember when Darrelle Revis was a Chief very, very briefly? Darrelle Revis followed Bob Sutton, who was the defensive coordinator at the time. and he did not play in the first game where he was a part of the team. And I remember the sideline reporter for CBS that game said Darrell Revis knows Bob Sutton's defense like the back of his hand. So if he knows the defense like the back of his hand, why is he not playing? Because he's on the sidelines in street clothes right there. This is not a really good sideline report here by the and listen, all she's doing is quoting what the defensive coordinator told her, but just looked a little weird that he was in street clothes and not playing, and he supposedly knows the defense like the back of his hand. I don't know how many of you guys remember that, but that was just weird to listen to. But my point is, the Chiefs don't just throw guys out there with very few practices. They don't want someone with the minimal reps to go out there and play. They feel like that's kind of just throwing someone out there with the Sharks. So they definitely want to give it time before letting Kareem Hunt go out there and play. And even then, in his first game, might not look great like he did in 2018. So we'll have to see. Efrain says, left tackle, would it hurt to call one of those free agent offensive tackles? I was looking at this earlier in the week. Who is available in free agency? Sharp Football usually has a more organized list. I know a lot of people are working at wide receivers. You have Michael Thomas, Hunter Renfrow, Corey Davis, Julio Jones, Randall Cobb, Richie James, former Chief. Willie Snead, I remember him. Jakeem Grant, Isaiah McKenzie, Doris Fountain is still in the NFL. Okay, he's still available. But yeah, those are the available wide receivers. But offensive tackles, Donovan Smith's on top of the list. David Bakhtiari was great with the Packers, but maybe not the player he once was. DJ Humphries, Jason Peters, Charles Leno, Dwayne Brown, Riley Reif, Matt Nelson, Billy Turner, Julian Davenport. Those are the top available offensive tackles right now. Not really the most exciting. When Donovan Smith is probably the best offensive tackle, don't really know if that's a good thing at the end of the day. The better Worthy and Rice play, the more Kelsey will open up, Chris says. Yeah, and Andy Reid was asked about this earlier this week. What is he seeing that is not allowing Kelsey to contribute more? Because he had 3 catches in week 1 and 1 catch in week 2. He did have a second catch, but it was called back due to a penalty and kind of scared the shit out of me because he's doing the whole fake with the lateral. I don't know if he's trying to throw off the defense by doing that. I don't think they're really biting. You just never know if you get hit right as you're trying to fake him. And then at that point you fumble, and that's just a disaster right there. And it's a really good way for the Swifties and Chiefs Kingdom to go into war, because Swifties will defend Travis Kelce with their life. But yeah, I mean, my point is a penalty kind of hurt Kelce's stat line a little bit, but it would still be very few catches. Is this the game where he kind of wakes up and you unleash the beast and let him go off and look like the Travis Kelce of old? I don't know. Hopefully that can be better this week. John says, my question is, why are people giving Kareem Hunt so much stink? It was the past. Listen, I have been very firm on my stance about what happened. I think he has suffered the consequences for it, with being on the commissioner's exempt list, getting released, and missing out on a dynasty. And on top of that, he went to Cleveland. I know Cleveland had some success while Kareem Hunt was there, but I think in totality, it's like Cleveland is a place where, it's kind of a punishment. Maybe not so much for Kareem Hunt because that is his home. But yeah, man. You can only hope he's learned from it. Andy Reid said they did their due diligence and talked to the people who've been around Kareem Hunt, and they feel like he's at a much better place today. Hopefully, you missed out on 3 Super Bowl rings, maybe more if you were still here. Now you have an opportunity to just win a ring. Call yourself a Super Bowl champ before it's all over. You have that opportunity. And look, you're obviously in this spot because of the injuries. Your number 1 and your number 2 running backs are on IR right now. That's why we're at this point right now. Was Jerick McKinnon a possibility? Sure. But I think with his age being up there, that might not have been as sexy of a decision to bring him back compared to Kareem Hunt, who's 29 and was dominant at one point. And look, time heals all wounds. What he did was wrong, and I think that needs to be stated there. But look who else is in the league. Okay, look at the quarterback for Cleveland. Okay, and I know people are saying, "Oh, well, he was never found guilty." Okay, but there's screenshots of him apologizing. Yeah, innocent people don't apologize. So we've seen players with worse actions get opportunities, and I think another thing with the Chiefs right now, it's like, okay, you're standing behind Rashee Rice. You stood behind Frank Clark, who I don't think Frank Clark did anything horrific. Willie Gay, who knows what really happened with the vacuum shit like that, which is funny to me. Justin Ross, who, can't even get the playbook down. You're standing behind him. I mean, if you can stand behind all of those guys, you can give Kareem Hunt another chance. Sure. Why not? Kareem may not have much left in the tank. Yeah, look, he's 29 years old, and that's kind of the running back position has changed a lot, which is weird because now you're seeing the quarterback play take a step back, and the running back play is stepping up a little bit. And I remember this is the case last year too, where offenses were not scoring as much last year compared to years past. So I don't know what's going on the last year and 2 weeks where you're seeing offenses not as explosive as they have been in years past. So maybe the Chiefs are just kind of following that formula, and they feel like Kareem Hunt can come back and help this team get a little bit of a boost there. I love how easy it is to trig. I don't know what that means. To trigger what? Bengals fans? I mean, that's stating the obvious there. Is it not? It's funny because they say they're going to talk all week if they win, but when Chiefs fans do the talking, rent free. Really? Your own player has a picture of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes as his screen lock or lock screen, whatever it's called. I don't think Bengals fans are in any position to play the rent-free card, especially when your player just admitted that he has a picture of Mahomes and Kelce as a screen lock. Oh, but that's motivating. Shut up. No, it's not. It's stupid. Seriously, what is so motivational about having Mahomes and Kelce on your phone as your lock screen? Seriously, can someone tell me what's so motivational about that? He's gonna remember what, that Patrick Mahomes is married to Brittany Mahomes and Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift. And what are you gonna remember out of that? If you really want motivation, make that DPI call as your screen lock. That's what you should have, not a picture of two other guys. That made me laugh. It's like, okay, Bengals fans just lost all the room to even use the word rent-free. That was hilarious. They're just going to step up more than regularly. I believe in them. They can do it. Mahomes needs to focus. And yeah, his decision-making has been bad. So hopefully they can be better about that. And again, it's like, I don't know why, and I kind of saw this the first week, but I didn't want to say anything. Mahomes just did not look comfortable. He didn't look settled. And I don't think the offense was bad in that Ravens game. I do think they should have done a better job of closing the game out with maybe one more score, even if it was just a field goal. But Mahomes just kind of felt uncomfortable. That's how he looked. That's how he looked in my eyes. I don't know. Yeah, look, here's the thing with Chanel, and it's hard to do during games for announcers. Chanel doesn't do things that come up on a stat sheet. In fact, a lot of the Chiefs linebackers here, Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, and Leo Chanel this year. And obviously, when I'm talking about Tranquil and Bolton, I'm talking about what they've done in the past, not this year for sure. They do a lot of really good things that do not come up on a stat sheet. That's how, under the radar good the linebackers have been for the Chiefs. Now, When you look at the Chiefs linebackers, they've got to play better. They have not done very well defending tight ends. 22 catches for 257 yards in 2 games against tight ends for the Ravens and for the Bengals. Obviously, for the Ravens, Isaiah Likely was the guy who had a majority of that in that game. Mark Andrews was a minimal part of that. And then when you look at the game against the Bengals, I mean, it just felt like the Chiefs had no answer for any of their tight ends. They all contributed in that game. Gesicki, Drew Sample, there was another guy, Eric All. They all really got involved. Is Drew Sample a tight end, or is he yeah, he's a tight end. So they all had at least 3 catches, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got to be much better about that. Kyle Pitts, he's had a very quiet start to the season, but I guess if there was a time for Kyle Pitts to kind of go off and have a big game, I suppose it's this one here. I was watching NFL Network this morning, and again, I'm not a big fantasy football guy, even though it feels like I'm talking a lot about fantasy football this year. But on the bottom of the screen, when they're giving fantasy advice, they say start him or sit him. Kyle Pitts was the number 2 guy on the tight ends list that was on the stardom list. So if you're a Chiefs fan, but you want to win your fantasy, you want to take their advice, not mine. Do not take my fantasy advice. They're saying to start Kyle Pitts in fantasy this week. And I cannot push back against that. The Chiefs defense has been terrible defending tight ends this year. So maybe there's an opportunity for the Chiefs defense to step it up. But, you know, even though Kyle Pitts has been very quiet to start off the season, he can maybe take advantage of the someone's got to take advantage of someone here. Who's it going to be? Hopefully it's the Chiefs, but I can't really speak with a lot of optimism right now. Hopefully our defense picks it up this week. Yeah, and again, when it comes to total yardage, they're bad. They're bad at that right now, but they come up with some really key stops when they need to. And that's always been this defense. Even in 2018, when the defense was ranked 31st in the NFL, they managed to come away with some big stops. So hopefully they can be better about it. See, this is a really good point by you, Elena. Offense needs in capital letters. I love it, to have long and sustainable drives. So look, when you have a one play drive that ends in an interception, which has happened twice this year for the Chiefs, that's horrible for your defense, especially coming off long drives where you were able to not allow a touchdown, holding them to field goals or whatever. When you commit a turnover on the first play after that long drive, your defense, which is tired as hell, they're asked to come back out and defend a shorter field. Never a good thing. That is how a quarterback can hurt a defense. And I feel like Patrick Mahomes has hurt the Chiefs defense this year. Now, when you go out there and score a touchdown on the first play of a drive, is your defense asked to come back out right away? Is that ideal? No. But at least, unless the opposing team has a great kick return, at least they're not being forced to start at the 50 or their own 45, because that's where it can be a little troublesome there. So the offense, I agree with you 100. If there is like one big takeaway from tonight, it's definitely that the offense needs to be better. They need to win time of possession. In my opinion, the 2 biggest keys winning football games, the turnover battle and time of possession. I don't think fans talk about time of possession often. I know there are some people out there that feel like time of possession is kind of a misleading stat, and I don't see that at all. And I've also got a couple pushback over the years from fans who are like, well, why does that matter? Because the offense and the defense, they're on the field at the same time. They are, except there's a very significant difference there. The defense, when they're tired, they're not able to stop certain routes or catch up to certain fast ball carriers like running backs and wide receivers. Whereas on offense, you can kind of control and dictate the action, especially when the defense is gassed out, and you can keep them guessing. And when you do that, that is how you win football games. Fortunately for the Chiefs, that has not cost the Chiefs any game so far, but eventually it will if the offense continues to not return the favor and not take care of the football, hence losing time of possession by a significant amount. I mean, there are a lot of teams that tried that against the Chiefs last year, and it failed. The Chiefs look bad in some games, but they still won 11 football games. And as weird as it got at times, the Chiefs found ways to win more times than not last year. So they've got, the offense has to be much better than that. Again, I didn't think they were terrible in the Ravens game. They should have maybe scored more to close out, but Bengals game, they certainly should have been better. Scott says, I think we'll get another wideout. Maybe. Last year, they never went after a wideout, but I don't know. They brought Henderson back to the practice squad. I think he has a chance on the team. He was just protecting QB1, right or wrong. I don't know how many snaps he played. How many? Let me look this up. Peyton Henderson, because I thought it was a little weird to give up a 7th round pick for him and then release him. Everyone thought he was gone for good, but he ended up coming back to the practice squad. How many snaps did he play against Cincy? He played 9 snaps on offense, 16 on special teams. Okay. No, I'm sorry. That is the wrong game I'm looking at. Where am I looking at? There we go. Okay, I found he didn't play a single snap on offense, but played 7 special team snaps. So, no, he did not play a single snap on offense. And I don't know why. You're worried about Atlanta? I think Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins gets a bad rap sometimes. I really do. I know a lot of people came around when they watched that quarterback series with him. I certainly did. I think a lot of people had a different opinion about Kirk Cousins after watching that, for sure. But the Falcons just haven't looked like a scary football team. I was impressed by their game-winning drive. They did it in 6 plays, only 1 incompletion, which, not the worst thing in the world when you're working against the clock and no timeouts, which was going to be my next point. No timeouts on 6 plays, and you did it in 61 seconds. Like, I'm impressed. There are a lot of elite quarterbacks that might not be able to go down the field like that without any timeouts in 61 seconds. I'm not saying Mahomes, Brady, Manning, Breeze, Rodgers. I'm not saying those guys can't do it in their primes, but you just don't see that often. You always want to make sure you have a timeout reserved to try to give your team, your offense, best chance to win the football game. And the Falcons did not need that. So that was a damn impressive. That might have been the best drive I've seen by a football team in 2 weeks so far this year. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I see Juju to have a better game for sure. Because he's a pretty good player. He's had good moments in years past. Is he the same guy he was maybe even 2 years ago? I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs brought him back for a reason, and I think you're going to end up seeing more of it because Hollywood Brown's not coming back anytime soon. Maybe not at all. So you might as well utilize Juju and see what he can do with a change of scenery and back to a place where he won a championship. Yeah, and I think everyone needs to help each other in that situation there, Layla. Having this kind of depth, even without Hollywood Brown, I still think it helps your passing game, and all of those guys can help one another for sure. I mean, Leo, it was brought up. I'm not going to sit here and ignore your guys' questions, and it's a part of the story. Listen, I know there are a lot of people that don't like, and I'm not picking on you, Leo. You're not the only one saying this. But that is the story. It's not going to go away. Listen, Kareem Hunt has yet to do a press conference. He's going to talk to the media at some point, and guess what? Those questions are going to be asked. Now, is the Chiefs PR going to train him to kind of deflect that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know how they're going to prepare him for that. But the topic's not going away anytime soon. So when you watch Sunday Night Football, even though he's not playing, the story's going to be Kareem Hunt is back, but they're going to show or at least talk about what happened. When he finally plays, it'll get brought up again because you're going to have different announcers for the following week when you play the Chargers. So, I'm not saying don't watch, but just be ready that this topic's, I mean, if you're if you're upset that I'm talking about it, just wait until the actual game. I mean, it's going to get brought up this Sunday by Mike DiRico and Chris Collinsworth and whoever their sideline guy is or gal. And it'll get brought up again when you have different announcers, because those announcers, they also want to give their 2 cents on all of that. So, yeah. And listen, I talked to Joe Valerio about this, and I know he was kind of doing the devil's advocate thing and was saying, is it Patrick? I don't think it's Patrick, because Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley, they're both struggling outside of Kansas City. But gosh, I mean, it's got to be better. You've tried a lot of different things in the last couple of years, trading for Orlando Brown, getting a Super Bowl champion and Donovan Smith, drafting a young guy in Wanye Morris, another one in Kingsley Suamataia. And so far, no one's really stepped up. No one's really been able to answer that call. And I think that's what's so frustrating about that. You had so many different options there. Yeah, hopefully. It's going to be their first road game too, so they've got to step it up for sure. I'm surprised Pirine was not used more last week. I mean, I had no problems with Pacheco. Unfortunately, it ended up in an injury for Pacheco, but you had a 7-year veteran right there who could have utilized it. The Bengals tackling certainly was better. It seemed like the Chiefs defense looked like the Bengals defense from week 1. That's what was so frustrating about the defense, even though we've been complimenting them for the most part coming through in the end. But that has to be noted. Steele will be fine. Rookie mistake. I'm sure they've worked on ball security this week. Yeah. My only concern with that is we had that last year too, and the Chiefs never really improved on that. So let's see how it looks this year. I mean, listen, running backs are going to fumble. They just are. So hopefully he ended up finishing the game on a stronger note. What's Cousins' record versus the Chiefs? Our defense to pressure him all game. Well, he's been in the NFC his entire career, so the Chiefs haven't seen him much. Off the top of my head, I do remember Monday Night Football, Washington and Kansas City. That was Harrison Butker's NFL debut, game-winning field goal. He lost that one. And then last year, the Chiefs and Vikings played, and the Chiefs won that one. Is there another game Kirk Cousins played against the Chiefs? I can't recall. Let's look it up. Kirk Cousins record vs. Chiefs. He's 0-4. Okay, so I forgot 2 other games. What are the two other games? Okay, Kirk Cousins played against the Chiefs in 2013? How long has he been in the NFL? What? I don't believe this. Hold on. Kirk Cousins was drafted in 2012. Oh, wait. Okay, now I remember that because they drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins. Okay. I didn't realize Kirk Cousins has been around that long, though. I forgot about that. Okay. So he lost to the Chiefs. When was it again? 2013. I do remember that. I think that was one where Dexter McCluster had a punt return touchdown. And the Chiefs, the game was over at halftime. I remember CBS showing a halftime shot of the stadium, and it was empty. 2017, the Monday Night Football game. 2019. Oh, I remember 2019. Patrick Mahomes did not play in this game because he was out with a knee injury. That was not Chad Henne. Oh boy, what was his name? Oh man, he was coaching high school football, and the Chiefs picked him up. Matt Moore. That's who it was. Matt Moore. And then last year in Minnesota. Okay. Man, Kirk Cousins has not thrown an interception against the Chiefs. He's thrown 7 touchdown passes and 0 picks against the Chiefs. Okay. Weird stat there, but he's 0-4 against KC. Good to know. Did not know that at all. No, he is not playing. How do I see Hunt fitting in going forward? Well, I think he's going to be a guy that the Chiefs really liked using Kareem Hunt out of the backfield when he was here. So I think the Chiefs are going to do more of that with him whenever he starts playing. I think that's what they need from him. And Samaje Perine can do some of that as well. So I'm curious to see if they utilize that more. And the thing about Kareem Hunt is he's never played with this offensive line before. He never played with Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Joe Tooney. So how much is he going to want to run up the middle and take advantage of that interior offensive line there? I do agree, Benjamin. I think you got to go with him. And if he struggles, then you got to maybe bench him and use Wanya Morris going forward. But I do think he deserves one more chance. Yes. Yes, two very good field goal kickers in this game. 100%, Charlie. I mean, listen, he didn't have the best game last week. But yeah, and I'm already seeing people call him a bust. Like, okay, slow down. It's way too early. It is way too early. There were people calling Rashee Rice a bust in the preseason finale last year because he had 3 drops. Yeah. Listen, I was very critical of Tyreek Hill in the preseason finale of his rookie year because he had like 3 or 4 drops in his finale as in his preseason finale as a rookie. And I'm like, dude, is this guy going to be good? Because there's all this hype with him, and he fell because of, questionable decisions off the field, but he's not looking great. Fortunately, not the case. Chris Collinsworth on Kareem Hunt. Well, here's the guy. I love Chris Jones' impersonation of Chris Collinsworth on the This Is America's game. That was funny. Why hurry and get Hunt if we aren't even playing him? Well, this is a good question. We kind of answered this, so I don't know if you came in late to the chat, Renee, but the reason that they aren't using him now is it's kind of protocol for the Chiefs to not just throw someone in there who they just signed. Yes, he's been with the team before, but the offense has changed over time. There are a lot of new guys on this team. So I think, they want him to be able to, and look, how difficult is it for a running back? Majority of the time, you're just going to get a handoff or a toss. You're going to have to run some routes, but I don't think it'll be that difficult for that to be explained to you. So I don't think it'll take that long for him to readjust and get acclimated with this offense that he was once a part of. So if he's not playing next week, I would be surprised. The defense this year has been a little frustrating this year compared to last year. Yes, it has. But, they've been kind of tough to watch on one hand, but on the other, they have come through for you in late game situations. Right before halftime against the Ravens, at the end of the Ravens game, and at the end of the Bengals game. On the final offensive snap the Bengals had, the last time they had the football, what was it? A Shamari Connor sack on 3rd down. 3rd down sacks are the best. I mean, if you're not getting a turnover, a 3rd down sack is, I would say, just as awesome as the takeaway. Because at the very least, you're ending the drive, and so they either kick a field goal or punt the football. If they're losing and it's the time is working against them, then they go for it. But 4th and long situations are also never ideal. Teams do not practice a lot of 4th and long scenarios, so that always can help as well. So hopefully the defense can kind of find that happy medium. And look, again, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has done the defense any favors with a one play interception on short drives to bring the defense back out right away. That certainly hurts the defense. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Red Friday Live Chat. Hey, we surpassed 100,000 followers this week. I just want to give a big thanks to all of you guys for helping us achieve that. We're actually already surpassed 101,000 followers. So we're less than 99K away from 200,000. So cheers to 100 more. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Other than that, I am out. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your Red Friday.